Hola, estudiantes. Today we are going to be talking about present tense verbs. Okay, why do we need to talk about this today? You've been using them for the past year. And the best explanation I can give you is, in English, we don't say things like, I to dance, or she to dance. You would actually say something more like, I dance, or she dances. So even in English, we actually have different verb endings. So these are also important in Spanish. First type of verb that we have are AR verbs. Our endings are o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. Don't forget that these do go with specific subjects. So yo, tú. Ella, usted. Up here, remember our subject is nosotros, vosotros, and ellos, ellas, or ustedes. Continuing on, we have our ER verbs, o, es, e, hemos, es, and en. Remember that these ones are actually really similar to AR verbs. AR verbs have an A wherever there is an E for the ER verbs. So if you know the AR verbs, you know the ER verbs. Pretty simple. And last but not least, we have IR verbs. Very similar to the ER endings. We have o, es, e, and then imos, is, and en. So you'll notice that the E is replaced by the I here, and then we completely drop the E and we just have the I. Okay, so what exactly do we do with verbs and the endings? First of all, let's identify some verbs that are AR verbs. You've learned quite a few of these ones. They're the most common. Bailar, cantar, estudiar, llevar. Some ER verbs would be comer, correr, leer, and IR verbs, vivir, abrir. Okay, so why do we call these AR, ER, and IR verbs? Because the last two letters end with AR for AR verbs, ER for ER verbs, and IR for IR verbs. So that's how we can identify these and the difference between them. So what do we do with these now? We need to conjugate them. What is conjugating a verb? If we have a verb like bailar, conjugating is changing it so it matches your subject, okay? They're called AR verbs, so we're going to take this AR, we're going to drop it off. This now gives us our stem. So our stem is bail. Okay, so what do we do with this now? We know our endings are o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. So I will take any of these endings like bailo, I dance, bailas, you dance, baila, he or she dances, bailamos, we dance. So we can take any of these endings and put it with our stem to conjugate and use our verb. Okay, here's some more examples. I sing. So we have yo, I. The verb to sing, cantar. So what do we do first? Remember, we form our stem, drop the AR ending. Now we need to add the correct ending for yo. So what do you think it is? Yo canto, I sing. Next one, we live. Nosotros And then to live, vivir. Remember, first step, drop your ending. And then now we need to add the correct ending for nosotros. It's an IR verb, remember. So we should have imos. Nosotros vivimos, or we live. Next one, he eats. El. To eat, comer. Drop the ER. And if it's an ER verb, my correct ending would be el come. You run. Tú. Correr. Remember, drop my ending. And then the to-form ending for ER verbs, corres. Tú corres. So all of this sounds pretty simple, but the problem is there are a ton of irregular verbs. One type of irregular verbs are called irregular yo. We call these irregular yo verbs because if you're looking at the chart, the only one that's weird, does not follow your normal conjugation, would be the yo form. So that box right there. For example, we have the verb hacer. Okay, hacer would normally be dropping the ER ending and then adding o, es, e, hemos, esen. So in the yo form, you would think it would be hago, but it's not. This is what we call an irregular verb. Okay, the irregular yo for this one is hago, yo hago. There's really no rhyme or reason to most of them, you just have to memorize them. So some of your other irregulars are ver, the irregular yo is veo. Hacer, we just talked about, hago. Saber, sé. Salir, salgo. Poner, pongo. Remember, these ones are only irregular in the yo form. So if we have veo for the yo, we have ves, ve, vemos, ves, and ven. Okay, so don't get confused with some of those. Another example, remember, only irregular in the yo form. If we have yo sé, tú sabes, él sabe. So remember, this goes back to the regular endings. In your regular stem, where you would normally drop just the ER and then add your ending. And last but not least, we have irregular verbs. So we just talked about irregular yos, but we also have just really weird irregular ones. So we have ir, tener, venir, decir, ser, and estar. There are a lot of irregular verbs. This is just a small selection of them. The really tricky thing about them is you really just have to memorize them. So ir is voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. Okay, you'll find some patterns in them, like here you can see the AR verb endings for some of them, but there are no accents. The yo form is completely different. They're just irregular. So these are the ones that you should know at this point. If you don't, I would recommend studying them. The rest of the conjugations are on your notes. Okay, gracias y adiós.